Harrods is just quite like a tough place to work psychologically. There's huge standards and expectations on the team. Your uniform always having to look perfect. You're not allowed to say the word toilet, you have to call them the loo.
I was such a people pleaser that I just tried to get everyone to like me, and it was my biggest failing. And I see it with so many founders. They're being nice, they're not being kind.
Yeah. I always see ops as like second in command. You have to be the person who's willing to take a step back and say, I'll do the doing, but I'm okay not being the one at the forefront of like people assigning the credit. It taught me a really good lesson about ego.
This movement now into wanting to have a massive audience and wanting to have a personal brand, but without the depth and the quality. I just see a volume of noise without any real substance, and it's bugging me.
I said to him, if it doesn't work out after those 2 years, I'll just go and get a job. And my dad just messaged back and he was like, Heather, I promise you'll never have a job again. Once you go self-employed, you will make it work.
Hi and welcome back to another episode of I Shouldn't Say This But. My name is Katie Leeson and we are here in the beautiful Molly's in Manchester. A massive thank you to the sponsor We Are The Allies, without which we couldn't make this possible. And today I get to sit down with just what I called her a powerhouse before, an absolute powerhouse when it comes to leadership and training and the mission that she's on. Heather Elkington is on the podcast today to talk about her journey, everything that she's picked up, the why. Everything is based in value, which is what I love, and how she's now created this brand new SaaS business to help transform how managers actually manage within businesses in real time. I love talking to Heather. I could talk to her for hours, so I'm so excited for you to listen to our conversation as well. So sit back, relax and enjoy this episode of I Shouldn't Say This But. Heather, thank you so much for coming on. Oh my God, this chat I think I've been looking forward to, because whenever we get together...
You can't shut us up.
And we just go and we go and then we're like, no, that's what's wrong and that's what's wrong. Yeah. But welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's an honour.
I want to start with a little bit of your background. For those who don't know you, will you tell us about your career and your journey so far?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Yorkshire gal through and through, which I think is important because there's just a lot of kind of like grit and determination in my career journey. And my like first proper job was on the Harrods shop floor. So I had lots of like itty bitty jobs, as you do, working in restaurants and shops and things like that. But my first like proper full-time out of uni job was as an assistant manager in the chocolate hall at Harrods. And it was tough. It was challenging to say the least. Like, it sounds all very luxurious, and I was actually at Harrods at the weekend. It was weird being back there. And it all looks very glam. But Harrods is quite like a tough place to work psychologically, because there's huge standards and expectations on the team. Just things like your uniform always having to look perfect. You go through like lots of training around what to call specific things. Like, for example, you're not allowed to say the word toilet. You have to call them the loo, which is fine. But as a Yorkshire gal, there's so many things you would call a toilet, and you have to say the loo because that's like the proper English, apparently. Just small things like that. So you had to go through all this training to essentially like turn you into someone who was prim and proper, which I am just not. At heart, just not. So Harrods was quite tough. It felt like a real like push against my personality, because I am just like a clumsy, bit of a type B, all over the place person. And it was like this. Yeah, you have to have a bit of a stick up your back.
So you were moulding really to something you weren't for
exactly
that role.
Yeah, it was tough. And at the same time, I was in this assistant manager role, and so had to really start getting used to like having tough conversations. For example, people would turn up late, and when you've got shifts on a shop floor, people turning up late deeply impacts everyone else on the team. Even just conversations about uniform and about like the things that none of us really want to talk about. It feels awkward, it feels conflicting, it feels personal. But I was having to start having these conversations. And if I look back now, I was just terrified. At the time, I thought I was managing it really well, but like in hindsight, I was just avoiding everything. Like, I remember the first time I pulled someone aside to tell them off, I guess, about being late, just to say, we can't do this, it impacts the rest of the team. I was just so nervous. I barely said it. I barely even told them. I just like softened the whole message. As you do, you go in the conversation, you're like, I'm going to say this, and then, you soften it. So Harrods just kind of taught me a lot about what not to do, and I think everyone has to go through that as a manager. Then I moved into another job, which was a PA job. I kind of took a bit of a step sideways in my career because I was like, I need to just figure out what it is that I love and what I want to do. And I always say to people, if ever, definitely if you're if you're junior and say coming into the workplace for the first time, if you're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to be in maybe leadership, I want like a fulfilling career, I would always say go and be a PA. Because you don't generally need much experience for it, but also you get to see what it's like sitting next to like a busy founder, a busy CEO, and you'll have like seen, you know what it's like, you'll have seen this with like Stephen in that world, when you're the person who is next to them and you're kind of doing some of the behind the scenes stuff, you soak up all that, like what it takes, you know.
It's so underrated.
So underrated.
So right.
Yeah.
Gary Neville's Gary Neville's EA, Michaela, she runs the show.
Yeah.
But you don't, there's the stigma around the title or the job, but what she knows about every single business is crazy. You're so right.
Oh, God, yeah. And we had, when I eventually moved into Sage, which I'll talk about in a sec, like Sage, multi-billion-pound corporate, they had people who'd been in PA roles, if they kind of wanted to follow that as a career path, you know, you could go all the way up to like a chief of staff. So a chief of staff to the CEO would be paid hundreds of thousands of pounds. They're essentially like the second in command of the entire business. And that's how important it is as a role. So anyway, I digress. But I went into this PA role, kind of got to really understand what it looked like to, work alongside a busy founder. So I got to experience like a different kind of leadership. We were a startup. It was all very agile, very messy. And then, we were talking about this just before we turned the mics on, but I was down in London and I didn't like London anymore. I was just lonely. Didn't really have community there, didn't really have friends there. And so my ex-partner at the time was like, should we just move back up to Manchester? So he got a job up here. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I joined a startup called Go Proposal. I was the second member of staff. It was a bootstrapped startup, tech business, building just a piece of software for accountancy firms. Very small operation at the time. And over the next, what was this? End of 2018, early 2018. Throughout the next few years, that business just grew so rapidly. We were getting hundreds of customers every month, hundreds of new users every month, and we grew the business from pretty much nothing to multi-millions in revenue in just a few short years. Wow. And my career and everyone else in the team's career sort of went on this crazy journey, as you do with startups. And again, you'll probably experience this at Social Chain, which we can get into. Why I always say to people as well, like, go and join the small, scrappy businesses because you just learn so much more. Do. And so my career also took off at the same time. So I went from, when I joined, I was doing some like social media bits, support, kind of just a bit of everything. And then I moved into the marketing manager role as we got a bit bigger. So I started to lead the marketing team, hired in, eventually ran the marketing team. I think we had 5 people. Then just before we went through this exit process, so we were exiting that business, we realised that we needed an ops director, so someone to kind of take charge. It's very similar to like an MD role, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I did when I joined Social Chain.
Yes, yeah. So someone to just take the reins of like ops, systems, people, culture, all the things that you want the visionary founder to do the visionary stuff, and then you just need someone to kind of sort the rest of it out.
To do the do.
To do the doing, exactly. So that role came up. I interviewed for it. I applied for it. Put this like plan forward of what I was going to do over the next 12 months. Got the job, and so now I was sat in this ops director role inside. I think the team at this point, we were growing so fast. It was like every week we were hiring someone else. But at the biggest point of that team, we had 30 people. So still quite a small contained startup, but just a world away from the 2 people we had even just a few years earlier. So 30 people. Then right at the end of 2020, we sold that business into Sage Group. So Sage, corporate, Footsie 100, one of the biggest businesses in the country, globally operating, one of the biggest software companies in the world. And Sage bought our small startup. And so overnight, my role went from ops director in a very small contained startup environment into this kind of Footsie 100 business that, it's just so different, like lots of the corporate red tape, which is the classic, but also it just gives you so much opportunity in your career because they pay better. Corporates will pay you a lot more because they've got just a lot more cash in the bank. But also my team just expanded. They invested in us, they invested in the team, and they brought in new product lines. So my role very quickly went from ops director, small startup, into ops director, corporate Footsie 100.
Wow.
With like global teams.
How did you feel at that? Because I'm talking from my social chain experience. I felt like I got a grip of the role and I was like comfortable in what I was doing. And what was the difference between that ops director role and the other ops director role for you personally? Did it feel like a big change? Was there any imposter syndrome? Like, was there anything that you felt was completely different in you?
The imposter syndrome was crazy. That was the point when it was the worst, I think. That and Harrods, because, yeah, you all of a sudden, like when we were working in the startup, it was just us. Yeah. Like we were our people, and our community was our people, and so there was no comparison to like other people in a business. It was just all of us doing incredible things together. And then you move into a huge corporate, and all of a sudden, my peers that I was having these like weekly meetings with, weekly like trading meetings, director meetings, were generally all 20 years older than me, generally all incredibly experienced in leadership, business building. And I think you now know in hindsight, like when you look back on that, I now know that doesn't necessarily mean better. I still respect them. There were some brilliant leaders in there. But at the time, my brain thought, okay, these people are much older, much more respected, like much more experienced than I am, and therefore my opinion isn't valid in this room, and I just kind of need to soak it up and stay quiet. But it wasn't the case, you know. Yes, you need experience, but that like diverse opinion set is really important. I think it was important to have me in the room as someone, especially as someone who's come from a startup, because you like still have that sort of agile, scrappy culture inside you.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring the podcast back was to have conversations about the internal runnings of businesses, like scale-ups, brands that are just like so prevalent, because we hear so much about founder stories, but the role of an operations director is one that actually gets the business running, and actually like they're one of the biggest parts of a business. What's your experience of that, like ops and the value that it adds to a company, but we just don't talk about it that often?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I always see ops as like second in command, in the best way. And I think a lot of people, it taught me a really good lesson about ego, I would say, because when you're in an ops role, you have to be willing to be the person who kind of puts a lot of things in motion, puts most things in motion. You know, you take the founder's like brilliant vision that is really like wide, big, sometimes a bit idealistic, sometimes a bit tricky to actually execute. And you have to put that into practice. But you also have to be willing to be the person that's not on the front cover of the story. You know, like you have to be the person who's willing to take a step back and say, I'll do the doing, but I'm okay not being the one at the forefront of like people assigning the credit. And I loved it personally. Like I loved, just getting shit done, do everything that I did feeling very like logistical and just tangible, the value that it brought to the business, because you're doing so much behind the scenes that people don't even see, but then also being able to kind of step away and be like, someone else can have the limelight. Because my role now is the opposite of that. I am technically the one in the face role, like the forward facing role, but actually it's my team who are in the office right now smashing things out the park, like our systemization, CRMs, writing emails, helping create social media strategies. They're doing the work, like they're doing the hard stuff. And it's almost like I get the glory steal because I get to sit on the front of it and people think it's all me. So I guess like spotlighting my team as much as possible is really important to me for that reason. But it's just so valuable. I have that person in my business now. So Levi is our ops manager. She's just moved into that ops role. And it's just so, having that person as a founder who is almost like a bit of a confidant. You can trust them to the point of like, you don't ever have to look back over your shoulder. You can delegate something, you can question something, you can, hand something over and never have to worry if it's going to be done, if it's going to be done to a high standard. And that doesn't mean it's always done perfectly and we're not always going back with feedback, etc. But it just means they will take it and care about it and do it to the best of their ability.
Yeah, it's so important. Let's go back a little bit then. So Go Proposal was bought by Sage. You went through the exit. What happened then?
So I was then working in Sage. We had the lovely golden handcuffs where as you go through, if anyone's not been through it before, when you sell a small business to a big one, you go through an acquisition process. Generally, like the key members of the team will be given something called a retention bonus, which is often referred to as the golden handcuffs, meaning if you stay in the business for X amount of years, usually it's like 2, 3, 4 years, sometimes even 5, at the point of you like staying that amount, so for me it was 2 years, when you stayed there for 2 years, this big bonus kind of unlocks and then you're free to leave. So they call it the golden handcuffs, and it's usually a bonus that's like you very much want to stay. So we were there for 2 years. To be honest, I loved it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
You didn't have it in your head like, I know this is the exit, like I know where I'm going to, I know that I'm out of this business in 2 years.
No, I was questioning it right up to the last minute of leaving. Like it was still a 50-50 decision. Because, like I said, I actually really loved it. Is that although, yes, corporate can be frustrating, and everyone who has been in corporate, is in corporate, will know the red tape, like the slowness of decisions, like you said, it feels like you're turning round a blooming massive oil tanker ship. And it's hard. You want to make a change and you can't just make it overnight. But it also taught me the power in like before Sage, I didn't understand the concept of like choose your battles, and I would just battle everything. I was like, just a force to be reckoned with, like we're doing this, which is great. But then I kind of learnt there is power actually in just slowing down a little bit. Not everything requires your urgent attention. No one's going to die if it doesn't happen tomorrow. Slowing down. I also learnt the power of saying no, because in those big organizations, if you are not careful, will get sucked into like every meeting, 5 meetings a day, 4 meetings a day, even 2 or 3 can like take over your entire day. And I had to, in that like instance, just really learn the power of I can't say yes to your meeting. I'm not coming, I'm not doing it. So I was there for a couple of years, and then I was there for, 3 and a bit, 2.5 years it must have been. And there was a point, so early 2023, I was, we used to do these like engagement surveys, 6-monthly engagement surveys, where you ask the team, like, how engaged do you feel? How do you feel bought into the vision? Blah, blah, blah. And twice in a row, my scores came back like some of the highest in the business for leadership. And it was a 13,000 people business. So we were like big business, like did really well to get to some of the top of those scores. And so the learning and development director reached out to me and she was like, hey, Heather, do you fancy running some workshops to our aspiring manager group on like how you're leading, how to run these kind of new principles of work. And bear in mind, this is post-COVID, like 22, 23 were tough for the corporate world because, for the whole working world, because we've just been through this whole workplace reinvention of work from home, Gen Z entering the workforce. So by the time we got to 22, 23, the workplace was really hard for, we're trying to decide like how many days in the office are we doing. All the big corporates were bringing people back in. The budgets were being reallocated because people were realizing actually we don't need as much maybe headcount as we said we did. So it was a bit of a like free-for-all crazy time in the workplace.
It's still happening now.
It is still happening now.
The amount of businesses when I'm consulting now are like still don't know whether to do 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, whether they need the office space, how to train people. Like that, it's still, I don't think we've got it right.
No, we haven't. And so I was running these workshops and did what any great millennial does and started posting on TikTok and LinkedIn and all that stuff alongside it. So just started kind of telling my stories about these new modern principles of leadership and the things that I was doing inside the team. And very quickly they started going viral. I remember my first viral video on TikTok that was about setting boundaries. And I got like 5,000 followers overnight from this one video. I was on holiday. And I was just about to give up because I'd been posting for like months and months, getting up early before my job. Every single morning I would get up at 5 a.m. and just post. Like before I would go to work at say 8, I would just get up, post on LinkedIn, do some videos, post them on TikTok, post them on Instagram. And I'd do like 3 to 5 a day. Like I was really hammering it.
Really? See, that's really interesting because I think a lot of people see the success, like you've got a really good following, really engaged following as well. And people will just see that, but they won't think about that beginning part. Why did you start? What was it that you wanted? And then, because you obviously had a plan for it if you were posting that many times a day.
So my entire prerogative at the beginning was I hated networking. Like really fucking hated networking to the point where it made me want my skin crawl, hate the small talk. I didn't want to go, and I had to go to all these events and I just hated it. And my thinking was, because I started on LinkedIn, I was posting on LinkedIn about 6 months before I started posting on TikTok and Instagram. My thinking was like, if I post on LinkedIn, and I think I'd done it once, and the CEO at our company of this massive business started to know my name because he was seeing the posts that I was doing and he was liking them and he was commenting on them because it was about Sage and about the work we were doing. And then I'd go to these like small industry events or small even like Sage events and people would know who I was because I was posting on LinkedIn. So it started to make it easier then because you're not doing the small talk of, hey, blah, 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 what should... And it just started to make it easier. And I was like, okay, this is good. So, because for me, networking isn't about like how many people you know, it's just who knows you. And I was like, but there's an easier way to do that, which is just posting. So that's how it started because I just hated networking and really wanted to make that easier.
That's a great why.
Yeah.
It is awful.
I hate it. I still hate it today.
I hate it.
I
don't go to many things either. And I know that I'm probably doing myself a disservice, but because I don't want to.
I just don't like it. I find them quite fake and icky. And I think you need to find your community. Like you need to find your people. And our people are very much like our Substack community, our podcast listeners, are the people who, and there's probably, if I was to guess out of our online audience of say 500,000, I would guess like our actual community is somewhere in the region of like 2,000 to 3,000, much smaller and much more tight knit. The people who are coming to our supper clubs who are like constantly, they listen to every episode, they're watching every YouTube video, they're messaging me, I'm replying. They're my people. Yeah. They're the people that I care about, that I serve, that I want to network with and that want to speak to, want to see regularly. They're my people. Outside that, I don't care about like the influencer events and there's so many things that happen. I'm like, no, it's just a no. Yeah. It's just I don't care.
As always, a huge thank you to the podcast sponsor, We Are the Allies. And I am so lucky that I've got CEO and founder Pav with me to tell us a little bit more about what the Allies actually does.
So Allies is a network of creative freelancers. So we have over 500 freelancers and 46 creative categories, working alongside lots and lots of advertising agencies, direct clients that have got in-house creative departments. We plug into agencies and clients. So if they have a gap in knowledge or, they need a certain type of expertise, then they come to the Allies to support them with that. We've been going for 7 years now. So it's founded by myself, Rick, my husband, who is the ECD, and then Polly, our daughter. So it's a family business, which is lovely. We cover all of the UK, and we've got talent up and down the country as well. We've even got talent in Canada and New York and places like that now, which is great.
So Pav, I've got a creative brief. I need the best creative director. I need a bit of a strategist. I need a photographer. Where can I find you?
You can find us on our website. So that's wearetheallies.com. Or you can give us a call. We take briefs on email or via the phone. Yeah, that's how you can get hold of us.
I'm going to go on a tangent a little bit because we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I've had a little bee in my bonnet a little bit about this movement now into wanting to have a massive audience and wanting to have a personal brand and wanting to basically be an influencer, but without the depth and the quality. And I think what you've just said there, with having an engaged community, fewer, bigger, better, right? You've nailed it because you're also now, you've started a podcast, you've got your Substack. These are like quality content. Is that why you've gone into more of that? Because I just see a volume of noise without any real substance, and it's bugging me. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like depth, always, depth every time. So we can talk about, you and I could talk about core values till the cows come home.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop it in the big CV. So like one of our core values at Fresh Leadership World at Custard, which are my two businesses, is existing customers are more important than new customers. And the reason that's one of our core values is because when in the few previous businesses, I won't even say which ones because it's kind of all of them, it's very easy to get obsessed with like, how do we find newness? How do we bring in the new followers, the new leads, the new, the NCA, new customer acquisition, like the top of the funnel? How do we attract and bring more in? When really the people who already like respect, trust, want to buy from you, want to like follow you till the cows come home they're already there. And it's like, if you can just serve those people better and you can understand their needs more and build products for them and like build, I guess, even deepen the connection that you have with them. If you can deepen the connection with those people, like you'll be just far better off. And so instead of like chasing that newness, then we always go for depth. And I think the only reason I can do what I do so well, and what I mean by that is serve managers across the world in helping them to become like more challenged, more fulfilled, be better at what they do. The only way I can do that, the only reason I can do that is because I've done it myself. Like I always say, our customer is just me 5 years ago. That's it. It's just me when I was, moving into Sage and full of imposter syndrome, terrified of having a difficult conversation. I've lived it. Like I've been there. There's no question. When I do talks on stage, people always say to me like, for the Q&A, so when anyone books me, they're always like, do you want us to plant the questions so you know what they're going to be? I'm like, no. And they're like, is there anything we should tell people to steer away from? I'm like, no. I could answer anything because I trust me, I have been there. I've had the sleepless nights. Like I've cried myself into my lunch at lunchtime. I've cried on my lunch, like all of it, the imposter syndrome, the fear, the anxiety. Like there's nothing you could ask me about leadership that I don't have like personal, and I'm not an expert. That's not what I'm saying. I will never ever be an expert or a guru, but I can talk into that experience because I've literally just lived it.
That lived experience, and it's so important. And I think that's what makes it so authentic. It's like you've lived it, you've breathed it, you've learnt the hard lessons. I think a lot of the time, like you learn how not to do things, and that's the more valuable lesson anyway. So yeah, I went off on a tangent there, but you were building that, you were building your community, you were starting your posting on social
media. So then it was like June 2023, videos had started to go viral. So I'd got to the point, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 months in, I was posting every day. And 3 or 4 months doesn't sound like a long time now, but when you're in it,
when it's not going anywhere and you feel like you're just trudging.
That's it. And so I'd booked this holiday and I was like, right, for the first time, I'm going to take some time off because I've been doing it every day, 7 days a week. Every single day, I hadn't skipped a day because I was convinced if I skipped a day, that would be me like giving up.
Going back to the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had this holiday booked and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take some time off. I'm going to delete TikTok off my phone. I'm going to not look at it because I feel like I'm just pissing myself off, like nothing's working. Anyway, classic. Blooming, deleted it, like had this time off, re-downloaded it on my phone and one of these videos had gone viral. And yeah, I'd gained like, I want to say it was like 5,500 followers from this video, which at the time felt like when you're chasing every one follower, one day you get like 3 new followers. You're like, amazing.
That is a huge jump.
Exactly. So you 5,000 followers. And it was just what I needed to keep it going. It was just like a signal to say, keep going. And then from there on out, it was just like an upwards trajectory. And, I sort of started leaning into the topics that I knew people wanted to hear about. So in July of 2023, I left my corporate job. I was questioning it right up to the last minute. I was like looking at different roles within Sage to take on because they were kind of offering me like higher up roles in marketing and different things and great salaries. And I was even some abroad. There was a role in Canada that I was like, oh, that'd be amazing. I could move to Canada, go and run a big show over there. And I was like, I couldn't help. I had this feeling inside me that was like, life is short and I just feel as though there's something else that I need to go and do. And so I built out this whole spreadsheet of my expenses and how long this money could last me if I never made another penny again from self-employment. It was like, because I don't know how people do. I don't get it. Like, I've got bills to pay. I can't not make money. Like, it was just not an option for me.
Completely.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. When you go out on your own, it is hard.
So hard. And so, yeah, so it was just never not an option. But I had this kind of big bonus from Sage that I knew would last me a little while. So it'd give me a bit of leeway. So I did all this spreadsheet, like how long it would last, blah, blah, blah. And I messaged my dad and I was like, okay, I figured out that if I'm really kind of strict with my budgeting, and I don't, like I only go on a couple of holidays over the next few years. Like I don't put lots of money into holidays. I could technically make this money last almost 3 years. Like I could stretch it out and it'll cover my expenses with a little bit of, I'd done everything. Food, I'd figured it all out. And my dad just messaged back and he was like, and I said to him, if it doesn't work out after those, say it was like 2 years that I had like a full runway. Yeah. If it doesn't work out after those 2 years, I'll just go and get a job. Yeah. And he messaged me back and he was like, Heather, I promise you'll never have a job again.
Oh, bless your dad.
I know. And he's just like, once you go self-employed, he's like, you just work, you will make it work. Like I just know you will. So I was like, right, fuck it, we're doing it. So yeah. So I did a little bit of traveling, because traveling was also something that I never thought I would do. Like I always see people go off traveling. I'm like, but how are you not working?
Yeah.
And I never understood it. And then I had this opportunity, so I went and did a little bit of traveling for a few months and was working whilst traveling. So I was like building the business whilst I was away. And yeah, and then just here we are. So I started Fresh Leadership World. It started by running like those workshops that I was doing inside Sage. I started working them externally and just eventually got picked up by like bigger and bigger businesses. So had the opportunity. I think the first like big business I worked with was American Express. They brought me into their office. And then a week later it was Abercrombie and Fitch, and then it was Citibank, and then it was the Ministry of Defence reached out, and I've done I work with them regularly now, delivering sessions for the team. And I got one of the best messages I ever got, because I was full of imposter syndrome at the Ministry of Defence. Like if you imagine all the people you're talking to, they're like leaders of a whole different degree, leading in conditions that like I can't even begin to imagine. And I got a message from this guy. He messaged me on LinkedIn after one of the sessions, and he was like, hey, Heather, I just want you to know I've been at the Ministry of Defence in leadership roles for 40 years, and I learned so much from your session, and I want to just thank you, because it was such a refreshing thing to hear.
Wow.
And it was that message, I still got it like screenshot, and it's on one of my to-do lists so that I can see it nice and bold. So it just reminds me that it's like, in leadership, it doesn't matter like how long you've been in the game. There's always something to learn. And I think staying humble and consistently, like I say, never the expert, never the guru. I manage a small team now. I've got 2 people in my team, 2 full-time, 1 part-time in my team. And I will never, ever be the expert. And that's why my blog is called In the Making, because it's just this concept that like, no matter how many years, no matter how much, we're just always in the making. And so yeah, so ran Fresh Leadership World.
What are the principles like of Fresh Leadership World? What were when you were starting it and you were going through, you were traveling, you were building it? What were the principles that you thought, right? Because we're big on core values. Yeah. What are they?
Well, I guess so. I've got core values inside the business that kind of translate into the teachings, but they're slightly different. But I guess the principles. We have the core values inside my business. A big one is stay above the line. So stay above the line being, above the line is this concept of ownership, acceptance and responsibility. And then below the line is blame, excuses and denial. And I'm someone who is like over the top positive, over the top optimistic. Like it's hard to kind of shake my annoying delusional optimism sometimes. And
that's because you think like me, we only live once.
We only live once, exactly.
Yeah.
And I hold myself to such high standards with ownership. If something goes wrong, like I'll give you an example, last week we had one of our customers messaged in, one of our Custard customers, which we'll get to in a sec, messaged in our support and was like, how do I cancel my account? They wanted to cancel their free trial. And you read the message and first I'm like, oh my God. No, well, straight away I'm like, right, first of all, there's a massive fucking cancel button. It's the easiest thing in the world. There literally could not be easier. How have you missed that? Like, surely, how have you messaged? Then I'm like, okay, well, can you give me some feedback on what's going wrong? All this stuff. So they give us a bit of feedback. And you kind of have 2 options in that scenario, which is to go, you can get pissed off at that customer if you want and assume that it's all their fault and they don't understand, which is kind of where like your ego goes immediately. Or you can just take a second to pause and go, actually though, is the cancel button just obvious to us because we built it? Like, it can't be obvious. We can't assume they're not stupid. They run a business. Like, they're incredibly intelligent. They know how to use software. We need to take some ownership for this, because if that customer can't find the cancel button and has got to the point of having to email in to ask us to find it, they must not be able to find, like, we've done something wrong here. And also just like the reasons that people cancel, you can always find an excuse or find a reason to blame someone else for that. Well, they need to try something different. They need to have a better attitude, whatever. Or you can go, you know what? That's a really great piece of feedback. Thank you for taking the time to give me it. It hurts, and that's okay. I want to get defensive, but I'm going to just take a second and go, okay, how do we make sure that that never happens again? Like, how do we take that feedback and go, I can see why that's made it a subpar experience, so let's now change that thing and let it never happen again. And so ownership is a huge one. I teach ownership. I have a session called Own It that we talk about accountability. And it always starts with yourself. Like, you can't expect other people to do that if you aren't willing to do it first. We also have Stop Being Nice, Start Being Kind, which is just all about
my
feedback.
Things you say.
Yeah.
Because I spent my whole time at Social Chain trying to be nice.
Yeah.
My whole time. I was such a people pleaser that I just tried to get everyone to like me for the whole time I was an MD. And it was my biggest failing. And looking back, like, I didn't hold people accountable. I didn't push people forward. The difficult conversations I used to spend days winding myself up about because I was trying to be nice, not kind.
Yeah.
And as soon as you articulated that and I saw you, I was like, that's so true. And I see it with so many founders that's what they're doing. They're being nice, they're not being kind.
Yeah.
I use it all the time. I steal it from you all the time.
I didn't come up with it, so you take it. It's definitely...
But I do always say you say
I have
it.
no idea who come up with it. Yeah, I'll
so
take
true.
it, but yeah, it is. Yeah, and whenever... I guarantee if you ask any founder what's the hardest part of running your business, like 90% of the time they'll say the team. And I always say to them, okay, tell me, when was the last time you had a really tough conversation? And they'll come to me and kind of complain and say, oh, well, I've got this, whether it's Gen Z person or I've hired my sibling or I've got this team member and they're just really subpar and they've got a really bad attitude and they always push back on things. And I'm like, okay, so what are we doing about it? Like, are we letting that person go? Have we had some tough conversations with them? And they're like, yeah, well, I did point it out to them. I'm like, okay, did that message land? Like, did you just casually bring it up and go, oh, something you said over there was just a bit uneasy, and soften it and then allow them to just get defensive and change the whole conversation? Or did you stand your ground and say, this thing that you did, this attitude that you're bringing into the office is deeply impacting everyone around you, and if this continues, you won't have a job in 3 months. And I'm just telling you now because I'm warning, I'm officially giving you the warning. And I need you to turn it around because you're impacting the rest of the team. You're bringing everyone else down. And this is your warning. And it's like, are we having those? Because that's a kind conversation. And the reason it's kind is because, A, you're warning them. So you probably, with that person, going to get to the point where either they leave or you get rid of them anyway.
Forced into a decision.
So why not warn them? Why not say to them, look, I'm giving you the opportunity to turn it around. And maybe they don't want to turn it around. Fine. Then they're not right for the business. But the other reason it's kind is if that person wants a successful career where they can positively contribute to a workplace, they can be fulfilled by their job, they're going to have to sort this out. Because if you don't tell them this, someone else will. Another business will. Another business will not put up with it. And so it's just like, it's the kindest thing to do because you're pointing it out to them and you're like, look, I'm giving you a space. I'm giving you 3 months. And I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
But you've got to turn this around.
See, anyone struggling with it just needs to channel their inner you.
Yeah.
My therapist gave me that advice. There was like business Katie and personal Katie. Personal Katie will try and be nice. Business Katie will try and get everyone to like them. Personal Katie will try and get everyone to like them. Business Katie needs to make the right decisions for the business. And ultimately that means being kind.
Yeah.
And as soon as that hit, I was like, right, okay, I know that I can separate the two, and I don't feel like it hurts internally as much.
Yeah, and I think people think that it like goes hand in hand with being mean or like a bitch or just horrible.
Yeah. Do you think it's a female thing? That's what I was just going to
Yeah,
say.
probably.
Yeah.
But I actually think my team, and I say this, I probably start laughing like, yeah, whatever, you are a bitch. But no, I'm not. What I'm trying to say is, I truly believe that I have the strongest bonds with people in my life since I have been willing to say the thing that needs to be said. Because people trust you more. Yes, you might like make it slightly uncomfortable in that moment when you point the thing out, but the long-term respect that you build with that person is like 10x, because you know that they're willing to call it out when they see or hear something. And so I think I'm a very soft, sensitive person. As much as I'm like willing to stand my ground, I do take things personally. Like I am constantly like battling to make sure I say the kind thing and not the nice thing. It's not, it's not natural. But I think that's just the difference. I think it's like just knowing that, what do you value? Because for me, it's like those strong bonds. All my friends, I have the same friends that I've had for me and my bestest friends. We've been friends for like 20 years. You don't have that level of friendship unless you're willing to call each other out, unless you're sometimes willing to go like, actually, that thing you said wasn't really fair and I didn't like it. So let's have a conversation. Let's go out and beat a dead horse, And it's like, but now that doesn't have to really happen anymore. Like me and the girls don't really argue and bicker anymore because we've done the hard stuff. Like we've done the hard work. And so now we're just able to kind of enjoy this lifelong friendship because we've put in the hours. And it's this, I see it the same with my team. One of my team members, Levi, I brought her over from Sage. I worked with her at Sage and she's just so brilliant. I like stole her. I was like, as soon as I can afford to pay you, I'm bringing you in.
Coming with me.
She's amazing. But then Tisha is a newer team member. So we hired her in externally just through the traditional job finding routes. And it's like, I have to, build that trust and connection with Tisha. And the only way I can do that is to be kind to her. And being kind just looks like helping people, showing people where they're incredible, showing them where they're doing amazing, and also just pointing out certain things where you're like, actually, we just need to, course correct that. And but it's also letting people go if they're not living up to that. And I've already had to let someone go inside the business just in like 2 years of having people hired. And you have to be willing to make those decisions, which I very much am. And I think when it's your own business, you should have more of it because you've just got more of a skin in the game.
It was one of the things that I'm most proud of at Social Chain is maybe as it got bigger, I can't really, but in the early stages, we were so quick on making decisions of things if it wasn't working. And that's because I was from the other way. I went corporate to startup, and I saw within corporate, sticking your head in the sand, I call it ostriching, knowing that there's a problem but just avoiding it, and it just went and rolled and got bigger and bigger and bigger. So when I went into Social Chain, I always had the mindset of, I'm not doing that. I'm never going to because I experienced feeling like I was at the brunt of someone else in not making a decision because of a problematic person. So I always thought, I'm not going to do that with my team. And it does make such a big difference on just being really like, this is how it is. It's not working. And 9 times, I'd say probably 10 times out of 10, it's best for both parties. Yeah. They're probably not happy either.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, it's that nice and kind is something that always pops in my head. And on your friends as well, I saw when I came to your book launch and they were all there and they were all supporting you. And I could just see like, you've got such a good supportive group around you. And how nice is that? It's probably because you've had such strong relationships built with them over the years.
100%. Yeah. It's incredible. And it's like I have a relatively small circle in that, like I'm getting married in a couple of months and our wedding is, I say in a couple of months,
Wow.
I think it's probably 2 months last weekend or something like that. And my invite list, our wedding's relatively small. We've got like 65 people and that's everyone. We've not excluded anyone. And so say half of those people are mine. And it's really just an interesting process having a wedding because you kind of like see who your people are and etc. And like so I've got 35-ish people on my invite list. 20 of those are family, and then 15 are friends.
Nice.
And I was like, that's my friends. Like they are, so half of them are like the girls because some of their partners, a couple of other friends who I've like got from later in life, but all of those people on that list I am like crazily close with, like real deep bonds, and they are just my people. And it's like, it's really hard to, I always think like one of the reasons now I think I've let go of a lot of the people pleasing behavior is when you have that like solid unit, you don't need to please, you like lose the need to please other people, but it only comes through doing the hard work. Like it only comes from, just having
the difficult conversations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's how exciting that would.
Yeah. I know.
So you started building, and then where did you get? So posting got bigger. You started building the business. What were the common things you were seeing when you were going to do all these workshops and the training with the big corporates? What are the common mistakes that people are making when it comes to leadership and management?
Yeah, so I guess this gets us up to like right now, so where we are right now, because I've just launched my second business a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things that I was seeing, so I was running these workshops, and I think with training can have a really great impact on the team, but you are limited in like the longevity because, you know, you're going to get new people come in, some people can't come to the training, all this stuff. I'm not there afterwards to like hold the team accountable. What you tend to have is half the people in the room will take so much from it, and they'll be writing notes and they'll be doing their actions. And I always have like action trackers, and I have like accountability checkers at the end, and you'll have half the people who love it. The teacher's pet's in the best way, because I'm a teacher's pet. Like they'll do it all, you know, they'll go for it. But then you have the other half whereby, like you said, ostriching. If they can get away with not doing it, they will. They won't do it. Like if they can just about get away, no one's going to pull them up on it, then they won't do it. And when I started to see that, and I think that exists with a lot of like the training world, is you'll always have amazing people, you'll have people who just won't care. When you see that, I was like, I need something that implements this when I'm not in the room, because it's great having me in the room, but I need something that's going to ensure, like for me, it's all about impact. Like how much impact am I truly having on this business? And I would say to people, you know, when I was at Sage, we did those 6 monthly surveys. But what you got from those surveys was you understood how the team felt. You could then have a feedback loop whereby the managers could take the things that the team didn't feel great on. You could try and change things. But you could also, for the managers, you saw in yourself like some of the areas in which you were not great. The problem was we only did it every 6 months. And if you only do it every 6 months, you struggle. It's hard to implement the feedback because it's like it's such a massive thing. You can't just act on it quickly, and it could have been building up for months and months.
And also it's dependent on what's going on in that moment.
Exactly.
You had exactly the same. And it's like, it could be that you're having a bad week with a client. It could be that things are really great and you've hit all your targets. That version of that survey every 6 months is what's happening right in that second.
Yeah.
And you can make decisions based on that survey data, but actually it's not the truth.
No. It's outdated. And also, if you run it once and the managers do nothing with it, which I've seen happen many times, it's pointless because the team just start to disengage. They start to go, oh, well, what's the point? Because nothing's changed off the back of this.
And then your data's invalid
Exactly.
because they're not filling it in properly anyway.
Exactly.
We've all done that. We're just like,
you're just
my
like, what's the
timesheets
point?
were a lot of admin time when I was working.
Exactly. So I started to see this. So it was kind of a mix of like workshop training was needed. But I also needed a way to kind of afterwards implement, but also to be in like more places at once to get the training into more businesses, because there is ultimately only one of me. And so this was where the idea for Custard came from. So Custard is a business that I started very recently, just launched. We've just brought on our first full-paying, full-time 50 customers, and we've capped it there because we just want some time for the product to kind of breathe.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I love watching the journey of it. I sit and I'm like, I sound like a real stalker. I'm like proper fangirling on Heather today. But like I love watching it all because it's actually being built from a place of need and impact and authenticity. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, from just listening to people as well, like hearing them, writing down their struggles and being like, what do we need here? Like, what's the solution? And so we built this piece of tech, and Custard does a few different things. So it's a product, you sign in, it's a piece of software online, SaaS business. And it's built for the manager. So there's a lot of HR tools that kind of give you, I guess, somewhat similar of data, but the difference is those tools are built for the organization. Generally, they're built for HR, or they're built for like the senior leadership team to sort of get like the overarching view of the culture. And again, the problem with that is they're not the people who are making the impact. It's the managers who are doing it day to day. And so our product is built for the managers, and it's kind of like this hub. So it has a few different arms. It surveys the team every week, and the surveys are 20-second surveys. So they're very quick, very short. You've got a couple of statements. It's just agree, disagree, and you can add optional comments that AI will then scramble so that it's all anonymous. Yes. So you've got these pulse surveys, we call them, that are going out to the team. The manager then gets a set of scores every Monday at 2 p.m. Every manager gets these set of scores, and it's based on 7 different categories, things like psychological safety, accountability, clarity, feedback, and every manager will get these scores.
And are those categories based on what you've seen when you've been doing your training? So these are the important things you need to do to be making a difference in terms of being a good manager?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so it's based off that, but also mixed with, we brought in like a brilliant organizational psychologist person to help us understand because there is some maths and science behind surveying and statistic questioning and stuff. So to make sure that everything is very as you need to see it. Yeah. But yeah, based on my experience of what those categories need to be for a manager to see. So you get the scores, and they start to build up over time. So you get some in the first week, but then also as time goes on, the scores will even out. You'll get a really good like understanding. The questions are different every week, so you get to kind of tackle the categories from different angles. Off the back of that scoring system, every manager will get a personalised action plan of what they need to do in order to level up the culture in their team. So for example, if you're showing low on accountability, it'll take you through. So it'll say, okay, here's some quick actions that you can do. For example, in your next team meeting, I want you to ask these questions. Things like, what are we doing about this? So say you get data, it's below where it needs to be. What are we doing about this? Some quick tick actions, but it'll also give you some big like working on actions. So systemization around reporting and accountability. And we've got all sorts of frameworks, video assets in there, so many things. So it's kind of like a management training hub, but that's linked to the culture intelligence. So it's not just going to spray the manager with everything that they need to know. It's going to feed you it when you need it.
Wow.
But then on top of that, we also have the hub. So you could technically just go in the back end and sit and work your way through all the resources and train yourself on everything on day one if you wanted to. We also have built in there a lady called Geraldine, who is our AI-powered leadership coach.
Go on, Geraldine.
Go on, Geraldine. And we asked one of our founding members, we were like, what's a name that feels wholesome and warm, but also like they're going to tell you what you need to hear. Like they're not going to bullshit you. And she said Geraldine. I was like, love it. We're just running with that. So we've got Geraldine in there. And that's probably one of my favourite parts because it's like we use Claude to power it in the back end. But the reason you couldn't just use Claude to get the same result is you've got Geraldine here. It brings in your scores automatically. So Geraldine can kind of see how your team's doing. It can understand the scores. But it also has all of my frameworks sitting behind it. So essentially you could go to Geraldine. I had a really great case study the other day. One of our customers messaged me to say that she had a really difficult conversation that she had to have with one of her team members, and she was feeling worried. She knew this person was going to get defensive. So she sat with Geraldine, told Geraldine all the things that she was really worried about, went back and forth on some of like the real specifics with this person and their personality and what she was mostly worried about. And then Geraldine helped her write up a full script of exactly how she should have that conversation to have the most impact. Then what to say if the conversation went off course and got a bit defensive. And so just really proud of what we've built. I think Geraldine's probably for us at the beginning, it was just a bit of an add-on, like in a module, but it's the one that people are consistently like, I needed this.
I'm not surprised because you've tapped into something that we're using AI for, which is that sort of like safe space therapy.
Yes, yeah.
Like the amount, I think this, is it not the most used part of AI is like as a therapist.
Probably.
And I think you've tapped into that.
Yeah.
Because people will want to go to there because they don't want to admit it to a real person.
Yeah.
But they can go to Geraldine and like share their deepest, darkest fears and get help for it.
Exactly. And it's like you could technically just go to Claude and do it. And like if you don't use Custard, I would encourage you to do that anyway. But the problem is you don't like... Claude's great, but it's just taking all the information off the internet. And so it's like, it's not actually going to understand the modern principles of leadership and like what we need to do. It's not going to give you a straight answer. Like it's going to just give you the classic sort of ChatGPT, Claude version of, you know, I appreciate you feel this way. Whereas Geraldine, we've programmed the prompts in the back end to essentially be, you're not getting any bullshit here. We're going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to just agree with you because we think it sounds nice, like a normal chatbot does. Like you're going to get them. If you were to go to like a really on the nose sassy leadership coach, which I've had coaches and they're fucking incredible. Like they've helped me so much. And sometimes they just say the thing that no one else is willing to say, which is like, stop it, like get out of your own head.
Yeah.
You know, we're actually considering doing on Geraldine, considering having an option so you can pick like, do you want the soft option or the no bullshit option? Yeah, like what's your sass level? What spice level do you want? Exactly. Because
I think that's a great idea.
Same.
Because some people won't like it and
No.
some people will relish it.
Well, personally, I love it and I need it.
Yeah.
But I agree. Sometimes you're like, can you just be a bit soft? Because I don't
Today
actually
I'm
want it.
tired.
Yeah.
I need a bit of like...
Yeah.
But I always say with AI, just using Claude on its own, I always say use it as a mirror, not a map, because like you say, it's only giving you, when it's outside of Custard, it's only giving you what it's been fed before, and you can't use it for forward thinking.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to get, I always use like viral, if you're going on there, create me a viral hook, you're about 2 weeks too late.
Yeah.
So it's the same with leadership advice. If you're going on there, you're only getting whatever it's been fed before, and it's probably not the most up to date.
100%. And we don't store memory. So with your Claude or your ChatGPT, there's something in there called persistent memory, which is, and you can turn it off, but which some people say is like the most helpful part of it because it remembers things about you so that when you jump back into a conversation, it knows your context, blah, blah, blah. The problem is it can also, and this is kind of what happens in the real world when you've got a manager who like knows their team so well that they know what's going on at home and they know, you know, oh, I need to go soft on this person because actually they're struggling with something. And it almost, like you said, it knows what you fed it and therefore it's going to tell you the thing that it thinks you need to hear, not the thing like we've built in Geraldine, which is actually we're going to give you the leadership advice that you need to hear, whether you like it or not. And if you don't, then don't come to us. If you don't want to hear it, don't come to us because it's not the place. And so we turned off the persistent memory, and we also did it because there's a real... We call it professional grade AI. I think I'm going to try and coin that as a term because it's important in today's like software landscape, which is you've got a lot of apps being like vibe coded, which is okay. You know, go up. I do a lot of stuff on Replit as well. It is okay to like vibe code things. For anyone who doesn't know, vibe coding is essentially just when you have like no prior sort of professional experience in software development, you can now use these interfaces like a Replit or a Lovable to tell it what you want. It will write you the code and you can like course correct. The issue, there's one massive issue with that, which is data security. And so there is currently very little regulation around how these massive software companies are using that data. So if you're just building something for yourself, you're choosing what data is going in it. But for example, if I'm building like, let's say Custard, if I was to vibe code Custard, and I'm trusting these data centers just with the data of how happy an employee is, if they're making comments about their manager, and it's just going into this ether that me as a vibe coder, let's say, would have no idea where that data is going or where it's being stored. We don't even know the risks of that yet. Like that's how scary it is. There's a lot of unknowns. And I think it's just, I have a real like level of protection over people's just data. I think is so important. And so we just don't store it. We don't have persistent memory because I don't want... Geraldine's the only place we use AI in the product at the minute, and I don't want people's data being stored anywhere other than the places that we know, which is inside our servers, and we can just delete it after a certain amount of time.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because you're seeing it more, and I think in HR it's going to come up more, because I think people are going to start feeding AI with the questions that they're struggling with. And then if someone comes and has a dispute or a disagreement and they start to take it down a legal case,
they can get it all.
to ask for it. I know. You've got to be so careful what you plug into
So
it.
this is it. So let's say, for example, if we had persistent memory in Geraldine, basically meaning if we technically stored all the conversations that people were having, if an employee, like you said, does a HR dispute, they legally in the UK can request all the data that company has stored on them. So therefore we legally would have to send them every conversation that included their name, which could be their manager saying, this person's doing my head in. It could be like that, because you trust it. You're like, it's okay, you can ask.
It's like a stream of consciousness when you're using AI, because you don't think about the actual...
This person's pissing me off because of X, Y, and Z. Think of the data. Do you know what I mean?
100%, it scares me.
Exactly. And so it's like I felt this real sense of responsibility around that for the managers mainly, and for the humans that are using it, which is we want to Geraldine, I want you to be able to talk to it and tell it your deepest, darkest fears without any worry that someone from your company or one of your team members is going to request that data. So we turned it off, so it doesn't exist. So the second you close off the conversation, it comes up with a pop-up that's like, just so you know, as soon as you close this data is deleted forever. You can't get it from anywhere. They can technically download it and store it themselves, but outside of that, it can't. We don't store it, so no one can ever access it. So it was like, I think you've just got to be careful with the world of vibe coding, and I don't disagree with it. I think go experiment with it, go have fun with it, but just know that if you're storing data in any way, there's a lot of unknowns with it, and you can get yourself into some serious legal trouble if you're not careful.
So to really think about, would you want someone else knowing what you're plugging into it, is basically the checker, isn't it?
And just have we just brought in a dev. So we have a dev. This is why I call it professional grade AI. So all I mean by professional grade AI is your data is secured to the standards of whatever country you're operating in. So we've done a lot of work with there's data security firms out there. You can look at people like Vanta, or who will give you the highest, strictest levels of security standards. And you can build that into the technology. So you could, whether it's storage or anonymity, whatever. And we brought in a dev who is professional. He's trained, he's a coder, he's trained. And he still uses Claude Code to write the code. But then anything that needs course correcting, he'll check every line. He ensures that all the data security standards are met. So it's just having someone who understands that world to have the final check over it. And I think that's the same with AI in general, isn't it?
That I was going to say.
Use it,
but
you can't get lazy with it, because it won't be good enough.
That's exactly it. It's never going to take over people's jobs when you need that level of scrutiny, that level of check-in. It's amazing that, we could talk about AI for ages, I'm sure. So you're now a SaaS tech founder.
Yeah, back in the world of SaaS. I mean, so Sage was SaaS, Go Proposal was SaaS, just for anyone who doesn't know, software as a service. Because I didn't know what the hell that meant for ages. I was like, SaaS, just software as a service, meaning you're building a piece of tech that people subscribe to. So it has its whole new set of challenges. So far we've brought 50. We've got our founding members, which was 17 people. So we have them on the app. They were kind of helping us shape the product in the early days. So as soon as we had it at MVP level, minimum viable product level, we brought them on. They helped us to really shape out what the action plans needed to look like, how Geraldine should be speaking, what the scores should look like, the layout, etc., what's helpful, what's not. So we worked with them for just over 6 weeks, where they were having the surveys. They were using it in real time with the team, just finding bugs, things breaking, which is classic. And then we opened it up to the public for the very first time just 2 weeks ago, on Tuesday. And we got in our first 50 members. And then we closed it. We didn't want to open it up too wide. We've got thousands of people on the wait list, which is amazing. But we didn't want to just open it and leave it, because we want to make sure that I'm not in a rush to do anything. I use urgency to my advantage in that I'm not just going to get lazy, but I know that there is this level of like, if you want to build a really great SaaS product, you can't do it fast. And you need to just give the product time, people to just live in it and sit in it and use it with a team and get their reports and give you feedback and bring in the support queries and break things and then fix them and take ownership for it and make it better. And none of that can happen overnight. And I think AI has given us this notion that you could build a product in 24 hours. Like I saw a really popular like business influencer the other day do a post on LinkedIn that was like, here's how you can make 300 grand in like a few days. And it's just so misleading because it's like, you can't. You fucking can't. You could maybe work for 2 years to build an audience and then work for 6 months to build a product and then get feedback on that product and then bring people on and then it break and then get feedback so that maybe you had that money concentrated in a few days. But you can't do it in 3 days. No. And it's so misleading. And it's like, if you want to build something, if you want to build a piece of tech that stands the test of time, aka, businesses are still using it in 20, 30 years, still getting value from it. It's growing. People love it. It impacts their day. They're living inside of it. You can't do it fast.
I think that goes back to one of your values and one of your like whys is like impact. You've said it a couple of times. The impact that you have through the work that you do. And you're not going to build quick, and you're not doing it to make a quick, fast buck. No. You're building something to last to help people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to succeed, right? Because we are in a world now, and we talked about it briefly. We're in a world now where noise over impact is, I think people are starting to come around to it a little bit more.
100%.
And I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. And depth now, I think, is going to be the future in terms of people with authority, which is great for us because we've been building for so long and we've talked authentically. We're on stage. I think I saw Ash Jones, who is coming on the podcast as well, talk about how public speakers are going to be the new authority figures because they've got actual things to talk about in terms of depth. And when there's so much noise out there and when you can do things so quickly and when you can just ask AI to make you viral content or you can ask it to make you products, people like you are going to shine through because you're building it for impact and longevity. And that's what's really lovely to talk about, to sit down and talk about, because I know that's what's going to make it really successful.
Definitely. And like all of our Fresh Leadership World clients this year, so all the people that I'm running workshops for, they're repeat clients. They're coming back. So like Sony Music, I will come back, just signed with me again because I prioritize. It's just that existing customers are more important than new ones. And this is one of the reasons why, because the ROI, like I could, if I wanted to, like just have one client. And if I served them well enough, they could run because you could have such depth with them and deliver such impact. They just keep coming back. And I've just had another one of the creative agencies I worked with just come back. One of an agency just down the road in Manchester who I've worked with, I did a workshop with, they just want to book 3 more workshops for different departments of their team. That's what happens. It's like you think it's easier to go out and find new customers. It's not. It's so much easier to just give more value to the ones that you already have. And naturally that they will refer you, they will bring you in again. Like they will, you also will get so many like testimonials and hear so many stories of impact that then again like just attracts this positive energy. And I think, I see so much in the software world now where people they brag about like a 12-month exit. And they're like, the plan is, so we turn it into a 2 million ARR business and then we sell it in 12 months. That's great for one thing and one thing only, which is making money in 12 months. And it gives you this like fast, uptick of cash. But the issue is, you're going to have thousands of customers inside there. And the reason people can do that people don't often want to talk about is because they have big audiences. So like in the glory days of SaaS, when tech was kind of tech's glory days, really, the SaaS exit glory days were like 2022, between 2020 and 2022. Everyone was buying SaaS, like the people were buying for like crazy multiples of revenue. That's not really the world of SaaS exits anymore because of AI, because it's so much easier to build things and so much quicker to build things that companies aren't really buying things at these like 20 times multiples anymore. And so people start to go, just get this big, fast, quick exit. And that's great, except you've got a big audience, you make a product, say it's like solves one quick problem, you sell it into the big tech, and potentially that big tech dissipates it, they take your customers into their product, they don't upkeep it as well as you could have because they don't care about your customers as much as you do because no one ever is going to. And all you've done in 2 years' time is pissed off thousands of people who were your true key supporters. And I'm just really of this, like, I don't know, I guess it's a bit of stubbornness of like, that's the last thing I would want. I'd rather never sell. I'd rather never, ever exit the business than do it fast and someone damage like the reputation and the impact.
It's a really interesting topic to talk about when it comes to growth, because I see it a lot now when I go in to do consultancy, and we talk, and it's all pretty much all my career's been growth, fast growth really, or growth in terms of audiences or whether it's been companies. And a question that I always ask now is, why do you want to grow?
Yeah.
Because there's two different routes. There's a growth to sale and there's a growth for building for future. And not many people think about it. They don't think about the impact of the decisions that you have to make if you're going for a fast growth sale, or the decisions you have to make if you want this to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
You just think growth, and it's very, very different, isn't it? And you're definitely coming at it from the most authentic, real, like you want to create a product that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to help people in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I see quite a lot of, is like, why do you want to grow?
Yeah,
Why?
exactly.
And no one asks themselves that question.
Yeah. 100%. So it'll be interesting because the software world is so with AI, it's something that I don't think it's quite made its way to like the mainstream. ChatGPT and Claude obviously has. But what we're starting to see is a lot of these like vibe coded startups pop up, and I'm just so interested to see what the future looks like for them, because I think we do have to be careful not to just make cheap, quick, fast things unless they're really truly helping people.
Why Custard? Where did the name come from?
Honestly, I wish I had a better story for it. But so originally, the company was called Gravy, and that was always the name that we loved. And it was like, it's gravy, like everything's going to be okay.
Gravy, yeah.
And gravy's obviously a very northern word, and like I'm very, very proud to be northern, and like so many things. I think we chatted about this on Instagram the other day when I had a bit of a kick off on my story about all the events are in fucking London, having to travel all the time. When Manchester's like I think Manchester's economy's grown 3 times as fast as anywhere else in the rest of the UK. And brands just aren't investing. Some of them are, but brands aren't investing in like marketing up here and building events and things like this, always down south. Anyway, so Gravy was that, and it was also, there was just so many connotations we had. Like we'd done this really cool logo where the A and the V were like arrows to show the scores. It was great. Then, about a week before we launched the product, we did the announcement on Instagram and stuff, we realised that there was a conflict. There was another business out there in the world. I think they're based out in San Francisco, called Gravy, and they do something relatively similar. It was something in like the hospitality world, but it lent into HR, and it was just far too similar to even consider. And I remember thinking, I was so annoyed at first, and I was like, they have smashed it with that name, because they're also part of hospitality. I was like, they've absolutely smashed it. So we had a week to find something new. And the only things that I really knew is like, I wanted a word that wasn't sort of like the wanky tech names where it's like a Greek god of some description. And it wasn't, like the Alpha or the Cosmo or something like that. I didn't want anything like that. I wanted something that felt like you could chew on it, like northern. I love the U in the custard. It feels like northern. When you got a northern accent, you say it a bit really like brash. Custard, exactly. I also just really love a custard cream. There was so many like opportunities for branding with the yellow and like getting biscuits and tins, and so.
Oh my God, the merch.
Exactly. It's unlimited.
Oh my God.
And so we had to whack together a Canva brand so fast. And I'm not ashamed to say that our branding is like so basic. It's just very much Canva, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't care at this point. The majority of my time has been spent on the product and making sure that the product's as impactful and valuable as it can be. So there's a lot of other things that kind of sit on the outskirts of that. Things like brand marketing that we haven't even touched the surface of yet. And I'm fine with that. There will come a time, probably in 6 months, where I'm like, right, the product is really operating. It's where I want it to be. I'm happy to kind of let that sit for now and go, and we'll probably bring in like a brand expert and get the whole suite of our brands redesigned. And
you can do that with so much more, again, authenticity when you've got the actual, like, this is how it's running, this is what people feedback, and you'll get more from a brand portfolio of knowing how it's operating.
100%.
I just think it's a great name.
100%. Yeah, it is. And I just wanted it to stand out. You know, there's a lot of like HR tech. I just want it to be something. I actually don't think a name is as important as people think it is in branding, because it's whatever you make it. Like, it's whatever you... I heard Amy Smale of Odd Muse, who founded Odd Muse, was on a podcast recently where I think it was the Olivia's House podcast, and she was talking about her branding and where the name came from. And she had a similar story, which was just like, I don't know, I kind of just winged it. I just found a word and then I just winged it and pulled it together. And it's like, the name will carry the weight of whatever you build. So if you build something like Apple, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Means nothing.
But now to us now.
Microsoft. Microsoft. That's like the worst name. Who thought of that?
It's so true.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
but
so true.
It just holds the weight of whatever the business becomes. So the
it
name
becomes a thing. It's like the same with kids' names. If you think about Molly May calling a kid Bambi.
Yeah.
At the time, everyone was like, Bambi. And now it's like Bambi. Like, it's just normal.
Exactly, because it just becomes... The name itself isn't that important.
Yeah.
It's whatever you make of it. Yeah. And so we did just have to make quite a fast decision. And but I do love Custard Creams. I'm really proud of it. I love the name.
I'm excited for this merch.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next? Not that you've not got enough going on and you're getting married and you've just launched a business. Like, what's the rest of 2026 bringing? 2026
is just doing more of the same. So like we've done the launches now. So Custard is out in the world. My podcast, The Boardroom, is out in the world. Now it's just like building back into the foundations of everything we already have. And so finding a really good balance for me of the workshop, Fresh Leadership World, standing on stages. Like, we even have a course. We have Fresh Start, which is our 6-week boot camp. Finding a really good balance of doing those things whilst kind of building a tech business from the ground up. But Custard will just take more and more of a priority. Because it's already taken up so much time, and that's it. Starting to build out the team even more. You know, we've already got the next role on the horizon that we're going to start hiring for soon. We need a support person, and just more of the same.
Amazing. Heather, thank you so much. I'm also going to thank you as well on camera, because you massively helped me when I went out on my own. We met for a coffee just as I'd started doing my own thing, and I was like, I need a thing. I need it to be a thing. I don't know what I am. I don't know what I stand for. And your words to me were just have a year where you just mess around and see what people will pay you for. And that was the best advice that I could have got, because now it's really solidified what I enjoy doing, where I want to be, what I get paid for. It's that ikigai.
Yeah.
And you... Just sitting down for that coffee, I wanted to say on camera thank you, because the amount of people that I've said that to as well, I've been like, well, I sat down with Heather at the beginning and this is what she said, and that little bit of advice over a coffee, I can't thank you enough, because it just helped settle me and it helped my direction for moving forward. So,
and I think we'll always be in that state. Do you not think it's like 3 years now out of in self-employment, and I've only just realised that Custard is where it needs to be, and it's taken me 3 years, and but I needed to. It's essentially like fuck around and find out.
Right,
I've got to do it. Yeah.
Did I? Fuck around and find out for a year.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I feel better now. I feel calm. But yeah, it was so valuable, and all of your content, everything you're doing, I just think it's just got such an important place in the world. So congratulations and thank you very much, and thanks so much for coming on and just chatting. We could talk for hours, but I just really appreciate your time when you're so busy.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honour. Loved it.
Nice. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you got as much value out of it as I did. We've got some really exciting things coming up on future shows, and I am so grateful to every single person that is watching Feeding Back. To stay updated, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time.